Hello, everybody. How you guys doing today? I have been approached by Lola Bohemia. Jeff Holiday introduced me to her today, and some of the stuff I've heard from her today, I felt compelled to share with everybody on my platform and kind of open
Hello,
up the floor
everybody. How you guys doing
to
today?
Lola. I
Have
got a little echo going because I'm not used to doing this with a group of people, but I think we fixed it. Lola, would you like to introduce yourself first, and then I'll tell everybody that Jeff Holiday is the guy that PewDiePie talked about?
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Lola, yet to be talked about by PewDiePie.
yet.
I I am essentially, I guess best way to refer to myself is uh, digital ninja, specializing in recon missions, web development, overall nerd, and also a victims advocate. I've had my own unfortunate experiences with having to go through that process, but in turn have learned a lot about it. And one of the things that I try to do is to connect sort of the, where a lot of places are not equipped to handle things that are dealing with technology and abuse therein, kind of help them with those sorts of tools and resources.
Yeah. You've been following a lot of the Chris Hansen and Onision and everything that encompasses this, all the voices of the girls who have come out. You've been here with a lot of people surrounding this, and you've kind of been in the background uh, doing an investigation of your own this entire time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always kind of prying around in something.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I I like to enrich myself continually. Like I feel like I'm wasting time if I'm not learning something.
Yeah.
But I was concerned, and one of the important things is making sure that somebody has the resources that they need and that they know what all of them are. And as I started to kind of view more and more of what unfolded, like I would just say from like mid December, I mean, I was following it before then, but from mid December on
Yeah.
is whenever I started to get really concerned. Um, and even just as a web developer, like notice it, in which I was very thankful to Wes and Baked Salmon for dissecting those websites because then I didn't have to do it. Um, but I saw a situation and I was just like, I would like to be of assistance, and there's a way that I can. But there was a lot of other things that were going on that kind of stood in the way of.
Right. I think one of the things too that's really important about this is like everybody does want to help, especially in like the broader conversation of what's been going on lately. Um, but a lot of times people are very confused about what exactly needs to happen, what needs to go on. And when you get like a certain authority figure in that says that they know what they're doing and they don't, that can be pretty damn disastrous. And that's why people like Lola, who have been through the process, are really valuable. And one of the reasons why we're talking tonight is, it's not just this situation. I mean, this stuff happens all the time. It's invaluable information for anybody who has to go through trauma and, you know, horrible relationships like that.
Yeah.
A Mia One Amelia says, "I love you, Lola. I actually want to bring up before you start pouring donations into the stream. If you love Lola and you love what she's doing, I want to point out that she has a link in description for her uh, coffee page where you can go and show support for what she's doing, and she's doing a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff. And if you want to support Lola directly, go to her coffee page. It's at the it's near the top of the links, if not at the top of the links. There's a whole lot of other links too with information awareness on if you find yourself in a situation where you need help and you're not sure exactly where to go. There's a lot of organizations and options to go in the chat. Rain itself, I think, is at the top of the list. And
Mhm.
we're going to get more into like the actual workings of everything as we go on. But just right off the bat, Her coffee link is in there. If you want to show love to Lola, show love to Lola. It's right there. Back onto the topic of everything. We're kind of here right now because Lola has been behind the scenes trying to offer her services, what she does, which is, in my opinion, pretty valuable to the Chris Hansen investigation. You were directly applying, right? You were asked by some people to be like a part of this when things were spiraling out of control with Vince Nicotra. I believe you said that the moderation team was like championing for you to
Yeah, like one or two of
one
them.
or
Like
two of them. Yeah,
ones that knew me.
yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, this girl knows her shit, and you delivered like a full on resume of what you could offer, and
Yeah.
they like I know that I believe Chris Hansen had saw it and didn't think it was valuable, or never he never pursued your help, which I think would be one thing if he was in it for anything other than what seems to be driving the content to his website. Uh, I, I believe Sarah in the very beginning of all this gave Chris Hansen a story, right? She broke something that everybody had been waiting to hear. They'd been waiting to hear Sarah's story. And when it hit, people got behind her. And then Chris Hansen showed up and he took Sarah, and at the time he was dabbling in like the IRL community. He was going after Only Use Me Blade and other people. And the
Ice
moment that the Ice Poseidon, and the moment that this Onision thing got on his plate, he deleted all evidence of everything else and went full on towards Onision. And that would be great if he actually was doing what he needed to do to protect these girls and actually investigate. And it seems like, from what you're saying, you've offered many things behind the scenes to help, and that there's not the help that needs to be there for the girls, especially. I know Sarah has distanced herself from Chris Hansen and his team completely. They failed her. She feels like it was not taken seriously on their part. You see the blocks, the foundation of everything falling apart underneath them, and that's why I wanted to give you my platform, because I'm a fucking goofball. I am not trying to be anything other than a clown, and I am honest with that. But if the best thing I can do with this is show the world that there are people that are actually looking to help, and have resources and have the intent and are actually doing real investigations, and you're not doing it for your YouTube channel, right? You're not doing it for views. You're not doing it for clicks. You're not doing it for anything other than you believe in what you're doing, and you want to be able to do it to the best of your ability. You've been helping other people, and you see other people kind of dick around with the information you give them, the things you bring them, and they don't deliver anything other than what seems to be a personal gain for their views and their clicks and their agenda.
That's how it seems. I mean, anything that I've participated on as far as in the YouTube world, I guess you could say, is I like to help people with research. I love to dig around on stuff. Um, I'm a big nerd.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoy doing. But whatever, if it comes to me making a video, I get too detail focused, and it becomes a little bit too much. I kind of like being more sort of behind the scenes. So like this for me is kind of difficult, but it was I wasn't seeing certain things, and I guess I'll kind of like disclose a little bit about myself, um in that I've been through a the a criminal investigation as a victim 3 times
Yeah.
in 2 different states. um and that is, of course, it's not easy. It's
No.
probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't know about, and I don't even know how I found it, but I came across, um, there was, and I didn't know what a victim's advocate was, um, but I had this instinctual feeling of something happened and something's wrong. And I need to figure out if this is something I need to worry about. So I somehow found the correct number and got in touch with someone. And this woman showed up and she's like, "Hey, I'm here to talk to you." I'm like, "Hi." Like it was kind of a strange sort of, but it was like she was there to just kind of talk to me and tell me and, basically put the power back in my hands.
Yeah.
And let me know what my options were. And any sort of, like, whenever I initially filed my police report, which that's the first step in all of this.
The very first step, file the police report. And
Mm.
and
And it,
and one thing you told me from this, okay? One thing you told me that I really held on to is it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to tell your story over and over again. You might not even have that great of a chance of getting a win, right? But you
right.
still have to file. It needs to be on record. Don't do it because you want to win. Do it because it's the first step in the right direction. Don't get your hopes up because it sucks. There's a lot of things that are going to come into play through the entire process, but this first foot forward gets you in the right direction. And don't get down on yourself if it takes a long time, as long as you are working it correctly, is what I feel.
Mm.
I wanted, because when you were saying like percentages and numbers, and it was very daunting and sad for how effective the system is, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't use the system, right?
Right. I mean, ultimately, it is up to the victim what they want to do when they
Yeah,
know what their choices are.
yeah,
Filing a report is not pressing charges. Those are two separate things.
okay,
Filing a report will let you know more of what charges might apply, so that you kind of have an idea of the direction that a detective might take it. So you can file a report without, any sort of anyone being questioned or anything like that. Like it doesn't start to delve into it.
The
And
start of an
also,
official paper trail, right?
exactly. And also one of the things too is in situations where DNA evidence is collected. Um, let's say that um, a kit is done. And in one of my cases, I had to have one. Um, there are some states, and this just goes into its whole other like issue with those two, but in some states they'll even allow you, because you won't be in the frame of mind that you might be in is very surreal, and it's also one of denial sometimes. Of course, a person doesn't want to believe that that's just happened. So
yeah,
there are states, I know in the state of Oregon, they'll give you a 6-month window where they'll hold on to the evidence that you've submitted to give you time of what you want to decide what you want to do, so that you can kind of look, re-examine things and have more information, work on it. you know they'll give you some time. So that's kind of those first steps.
okay. And
Mm.
you now, as far as the Chris Hansen investigation has gone, do you think he has taken any of the correct steps with the girls he's been interacting with? Do you think he might have actively been putting them down the wrong path in general? Is he doing anything positive that you've seen for the girls, other than giving them a platform?
I'm
Right, like he gave them a platform.
Yeah.
He boosted their voice. Like that's good. But
That is good.
Yeah.
other than boosting their voice, is he doing anything right for actually getting them action from what you've seen?
Well, the thing that I would think is that, you know if they were to come in to talk about that sort of thing, I kind of wondered where's their support when they were doing it. Because in talking about that and to know how to deal, working with victims, that's not easy, and especially to broadcast to so many people. I'm like, do they have like a counselor or someone they're working with? And that's when I got concerned.
That's a really
Um,
good point.
yeah, because that's very hard to do. Um, and the thing is that usually the first time, I mean, you'll tell your story, of course, to usually like if you work with an advocate, they'll know. And then usually for the initial police report, you won't go into details with it, but they'll take down some things. But when you go to the step where you actually decide to press charges and you talk to a detective, that's when you make your official statement, the recorded 3 to 4 hour long detail of everything. And
Yeah.
that um and that's something that if it proceeds forward, they're going to have you tell it over and over, backwards, like in different parts. It's it's rough. um and you're going to, I would say this from my own experience, I wouldn't have been able to do it completely alone without somebody that didn't know or didn't understand what how trauma affects people and what they might be going through.
Yeah.
So that's what concerned me.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they have somebody like directly as an abuse advocate directly interacting with them before they're even talking about this.
Right.
Um, I didn't even I honestly I didn't even think about that until just now. Because obviously, like, we want to make sure that stories get out there, so it's a cautionary tale that other people don't get abused. Like, that makes sense, right?
Mhm.
But I had to take a friend of mine to the police station to file a report after she got raped, and I remember how much of a mess she was, and like just the idea of her, if I had to, like, well, okay, here we go. I'm gonna put you in this room to talk to a celebrity in front of literally thousands of people, and then hundreds, if not millions, of people later are gonna watch this whole thing. Like, granted, of course, that's the girl's choice, of course,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
still, like, the weight of it kind of like crashes on you after a while. Fuck.
My
Mhm.
problem is that this was all an investigation that's being it's under the guise of being an investigation that's going to get justice. This entire circus, which is what it's turned into, was supposed to be about justice. And when you hear Sarah, the basically the person who I believe started this entire movement for Chris Hansen, it was all in the back of Sarah. He didn't even bother doing anything with the evidence that she provided. The laptop's back in her hands, and Sarah has said that she is just doing it on her own because there was no real. She didn't feel like she was really helped at all. And that is like these girls are the content, right? These are the people that are risking their story, and their story, it should be. There should be cases. There should be everything involved with it. That it should be a criminal investigation, not just a way for Chris Hansen and Mike Morse and Vince Nicotra to up their online clout, or whichever piece of that puzzle has fallen out, whoever else is involved. There's a lot of people accusing you know people on his team of doxing people. There's a whole lot of there's the email or the private messages that leaked between Chris Hansen and Vince Nicotra, where Vince Nicotra was using the N word maliciously, and Chris Hansen decided to not worry about that until it became opportune to leak it, and he offered to leak it to I believe like a hacker or somebody on his payroll who he gave the information to somebody else, and he said, well, I wonder what would happen if this became public, exposing Vince Nicotra as being a piece of shit. But like everybody was exposing Vince Nicotra for being a piece of shit for weeks, and you didn't care then. You only cared when you saved this jewel of him being terribly racist to discredit his words about you, to discredit his claims against you. It only became an opportunity for Chris Hansen. He's playing the game of a YouTube drama. He's playing the game of a drama YouTuber. He is creating these clouds of doubt on other people, so you don't look at where he is fucking up and where he is becoming a problem.
Yeah.
And we've given him power because we thought he was going to actually bring some sort of justice. He's always had that in his pitch. You know, we're going to the FBI. We're doing this. You got to tune in. You got to tune in because we got some real big information. And when someone tells you you got to tune in, it's not because it's helping the case. It's helping their channel grow. He is trying to solidify his voice on YouTube as the guy to go to when you have a problem to be fixed. But he's just going to promote the fucking problem. He's going to manipulate the problem. He's going to profit off of it. And he's going to leave these girls on their own. And we see that directly with Sarah.
Right.
That's fucked up.
Well, so okay, so say there's a situation, since we have you here, Lola. Say there's a situation, somebody's abused, maybe systematically abused, gaslit for fucking years, abusive relationship, maybe physical, maybe not, emotional, mentally, whatever. A systematic cycle of abuse that somebody experiences, which obviously we have instances of this happening in this case, but let's just put this out for right now into, say that happens. This person hopefully finds a number for a abuse advocate and they file a report. Is there other programs that this advocate can help them find, not just like for the legal process, but also the process for like for them to like to figure their shit out?
So many. There are so many. And that's another thing. People don't know that those exist. And there's a ton of them out there. There's for each advocacy center, they have people there that work as counselors, as trauma counselors, and it's free. They offer all of that for free. Um, like anyone is welcome to these services. And now, depending, it does differ from state to state, depending on like the kind of funding that they may get. Um, So, I've run into some centers that aren't that great, unfortunately. And in cases like that, sometimes you're going to have to switch to another place, even though it may not be local to you. But at least there's other options if that happens. Another thing too is that for those that go through with the process of having an investigation, and we were speaking about, or it was touched on the numbers earlier, and it breaks my heart to say this, but know that out of all of the cases that are, there's only a 3% chance that usually the assailant is going to face it.
3% chance that they see jail time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you said that earlier, it was devastating, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
No,
I knew
it's
it
not.
was low. I didn't think it was that fucking low. That's
It is
insane.
3%. It is really low, and the reason for that is there's a few reasons. First off, one of the key components in in proving one of those cases is the DNA evidence. Another thing is that the cases that are involved sexual abuse and sexual battery, the ones that typically do win, are ones that involve minors.
Okay.
Because that's you have to establish what consent means, and for each state they even make that a thing of defining it differently. But the whole point of the case and what's really being established is was consent given? Now, there are certain circumstances where it's very clear if consent is not given, where the person is intoxicated. The person cannot give consent while intoxicated. If the person is unconscious, they cannot give consent.
Right.
Um, if they're incapacitated in any way, um, but consent isn't just somebody saying no; it is the absence of a yes.
Okay.
Um, so one of the things that I talk to people about is the concept of what's called an enthusiastic consent, so that it's very clear that people are on the same page.
Yeah.
And talking to people about that and what that looks like and everything. Um, but that's one of the first things that they look for in cases is seeing if where there wasn't consent. Um, there was also a few other things. Look at this here. Um, but it's also or these are kind of what the enforcement look for. But there's a lot that will go into report signs of premeditation, if there's any force, a timeline. But one of the things that has kind of given me some courage, especially whenever because I went through this as recently as August of 2018. And it was, I knew how I had been failed in the past, but I also thought to myself, I'm like, I want this guy's name on the book because if he does this shit again, at least I'll help them.
It shows a pattern when you
Mm-hmm.
report,
Mm-hmm.
and that's important for any future girls that might have to report too. If you see all these reports, it becomes more than just one person's word, even if there's no conviction for your report.
Right.
Right.
That goes into court cases too, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they can bring up there is a pattern of accusation, whether or not there's a conviction, pattern of accusation, and that can be enough for some court cases.
Mm-hmm. And also something that because this has been brought up a lot with certain people in certain circumstances, is that just because there isn't a conviction doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Because, as I stated earlier, only 3% face jail time.
Right.
And then there's a larger percent that might, get a slap on the wrist. But for the most part, most of the cases, most of them, vast majority, are thrown out because they can't make an absolute decision. And the whole idea of, if somebody is lying about it happening, that is a very, very small percentage of that happening. I think that's like a 4% chance.
So it is
And
higher than conviction by 1%. God.
yeah,
The only thing
there's
less likely than a woman lying about her assault is actually prosecuting somebody who for the assault itself. That's
yeah.
great.
Oh fuck. Oh shit.
I will say though that the reason why one would lie is usually to give themselves an alibi because they were guilty of something else. So let's
Yeah.
say that someone is caught, you know, committing an actual crime and they're trying to give themselves an alibi. There are people that will give the reasoning of being assaulted.
Mm.
Like that's if there's if there's a trend among that happening,
Yeah.
that's been the most commonplace one.
So
Um,
you have been following the Onision stuff prior to December, or is that when you got into it?
I mean, I had been watching the live streams,
Yeah.
and everything, but I didn't start to try to be actively involved or give contribute in some way
Yeah.
until about mid-December, I believe. Yeah.
And you immediately got a hold of Pierce County, right? The county that he's involved in? Like, you started your investigation at the source
In January,
in January. Okay.
the very beginning of January.
And the information you found there, was that information that you had found anywhere else online, or had anybody else gone for that information?
Not yet.
Not
No.
yet. So
No.
you found some significant information there, correct?
Yeah. I it's presenting it is a little tricky.
Yeah.
But I will say that my reason for doing so was so that if I were able to provide more specific resources for the victims, um, I wanted to be familiar with what
Yeah.
resources were in the area
Yeah.
and kind of like how I wanted to understand their state law, because that's something that I try to do as someone that advocates for victims. I familiarizing myself with state laws.
Yeah.
So I had called to kind of just check into, like what their process was and understand, how one would go about it, so that if I were asked for that kind of information, that I would be able to easily provide it.
Yeah.
And even kind of establish myself with different advocates that were in the area. And yeah.
And not everybody is going to be abused by Onision. So Pierce County would be effective for the Onision abuse. It works differently in all the different areas, right?
Right.
Like Chris Hansen, when he was doing his How to Catch a Predator show, he had an entire season worth of content where he busted these guys, got them all on the show, and they all 20 something of the convictions had to be thrown out because they didn't operate within the law of the jurisdiction. And that was
Right.
a oopsie on the part of their production team. And this is when he was working under NBC with Perverted Justice and a ton of corporate people. He could make this mistake then. And now he's working with a angry, he was working with an angry internet racist troll person, and
Fucking bits.
and a lawyer that is under investigation for sexual assault 3 cases in the state that he operates out of. Who's gone to the Supreme Court of Michigan.
And he can't even practice law in Washington.
He's
either.
not. He has no. He's out of his jurisdiction to practice law in Washington. This is his team now, and then maybe there's a couple of other people on his team. Maybe some people that have access to more digital opportunities. I don't know. Like there's the moderator team. They seem to be pretty good people. They were the ones that stood up and finally got Chris Hansen to ditch Vince. I know publicly Chris Hansen had said that Vince Nicotra was being investigated and looked into, and he's no longer going to be associated with the show, and he wasn't really online with the show. But I know behind the scenes, he was still trying to get guests and book the show and pretty much produce the show. He was still having one-on-one interviews with the guests on the show, pre-interviews, to pre-screen what was going to be asked of them by Chris Hansen, and their answers would have been like predetermined, so Chris would know what to expect during the live portion of the show. Vince Nicotra was doing the pre-interviews. He reached out to me during the time that he was supposed to be distanced from the show to get me on the show. And when he came at me, I was like, oh wow, I thought he wasn't working with the show. And then shortly after he had approached me, the moderator team had come out and showed how inappropriate it was for him to be working with them, and that they were going to step down if nothing was done. And that public that public move by the moderator team was what finally got him ousted. And in that ousting, you saw Vince Nicotra attack Chris Hansen and take his website and put his mugshot on the website and accuse him of a failure to pay for services, being a cheapskate, which is neither here nor there. I'm not too worried about anybody involved in that situation not getting paid. But it really makes you question what the hell was going on if they're having these troubles behind the scene where the moderation team can't support it and they can't focus on the investigation that they're promising everybody, and they're just sitting on the evidence that Sarah sent them, and they're telling these girls that they're putting hope in their mind, they're putting hope in the viewer's mind, that they have the viewers championing Chris Hansen as this sword of justice.
Right.
And he's not really using the sword for anything else than to cut himself a bigger slice of the cake. He's not justice, is what I'm seeing out of this. He's not contributing anything to the girls that he is banking off of directly. And I feel like he's not telling them, hey, we're just going to take your story and sensationalize it and build my base and create my platform off of your hurt. He is saying, we're going to get him. We're going to get Onision. And I don't feel like he's genuine. All the evidence shows he's emotionally grifting people for monetary gain, for views, power to his voice. He's building his voice off the back of these girls, and he's not doing anything. After talking to Sarah last night, she felt like she was trusted them and was completely let down. And that fucking sucks, because this girl, she needs the love and support to get her through this the best she possibly can, and she shouldn't be used to give, in my opinion, a grifter a platform.
She got it really, really bad, really, really, really fucking bad. And the thing too, I think that's pretty crazy. Really is that laptop thing, and that's the thing that I remember when I took my friend in for her abuse case, and this is something I wanted to ask you, Lowell, about is like they instill within me a very, very specific statement. It's called chain of evidence, chain of fucking evidence. I mean, Chris Hansen's here saying like he's going to take that percentage of 3% to 100%. But then breaks what I understand to be the chain of evidence. And if I'm not mistaken, like in abuse advocacy, when you're trying to get things done with the cops, that's important as fuck, isn't it?
Very. It is incredibly important. Like, I think one of the first things that they collected from me was any evidence. Like, it was immediate. It was absolutely immediate.
And the cops take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if it needs to be escalated to a different department or, to the FBI, it's done so from within the police department. Like, that's how it travels out. They do have different field offices. And even with advocacy programs, a lot of them have FBI contacts because they work on cases that involve trafficking.
Oh, so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really infuriating. That's what's gotten to me quite a bit. Is if somebody were to say, tune in next week and let's hear more about Lola's investigation with what I had gone through, I tell them to fuck off. Like, with what I've experienced in that, and knowing like what one like has to go through, like it takes a toll on you, and to know that they weren't even working with their local advocacy center. They didn't have somebody to call up that was trained at any time. That pisses me off so much that can just be so easily done. And that, if there's criticism of it, if somebody steps up and says, hey, they deserve better than this, you know, they get attacked because it's like, oh, how dare you? Chris Hansen is infallible. He caught all of these predators before, don't you remember? And I was like, yeah, okay, if you would have said that he did that on his own, then okay, then I guess that Pat Sajak taught Americans how to read. He's Vanna White. Like like, and yeah, that's when I was talking to you earlier about me having to use my own sense of humor for things. This is exactly what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
And because I'm so mad, like,
God, and that was fuck. That's on point, dude.
Yeah,
but
Lola. It's as somebody who has been through this, and the reason I wanted to talk with you publicly is because your experience making it through this and knowing where to go and where to put the power back in the hands of the woman who has been abused, and you get that power back by knowing who to talk to, who to support you, who to really go forward with. You don't put that power into somebody's hands that is not going to go through the proper avenues that may be taking advantage of you once again. and
right.
and that's really what I wanted to shed light on, because when you told me you've been helping out behind the scenes a lot of places, and it just seems that you know nobody's really focusing on how to really help. It's just become this circus, and these girls or these women, excuse me, that have been involved in all of this are one by one walking away from the circus that was created and focusing on getting the actual help they need, I think, and not like having your voice put out there is very powerful. And Chris Hansen teaming up with these girls' voices was a huge thing. But I feel like it's becoming less and less about the girls that we have to focus on, the women we have to focus on. It's
Can I ask a question real quick? This is something that's kind of burning in my head right now. Let's say, for instance, like Chris Hansen, he gets up and he starts getting involved with Sarah, with all of the survivors. Um, and he does the right thing. The very first thing is he gets them in touch with like an abuse advocacy center. What do you think the abuse advocate would say if they knew that Chris Hansen was like wanting to put these girls on camera? I'm just curious. I'm just curious.
Well, I already know what a few of them have said.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them don't know who Chris Hansen is. I'll say that. And then after explaining it, um, it's they're like, do they know their options? Do they know, like, did were they talked to by? And I'm like, it doesn't appear to be so. And that's what gets to me, is that okay, so an example of, let's say that if we were to bring someone forward and have them share their story, it's typically after the majority of the legal process has been gone through, right? So, you know, that's why I waited a year to share mine.
yeah,
And, after I had gone through what I did, realizing what my results were, which that's a whole nother letdown and disappointment.
yeah. But you can't go for the letdown and disappointment. Just having a paper trail of the abuse could be so helpful in the future for other people. So even if you're not getting that win that you deserve, that you're maybe helping save somebody else in the future just by
Well,
filing that report.
yeah, here was my goal. Here was my goal in, you know, coming forward here, telling my story to others, and continuing to do what it is that I do. Taking something that I based on results, seem to be very talented in, and using that to help other people, I want to continue moving forward in my life because that is the best way for me to tell my assailant, you didn't win. You didn't win. I took over this. You didn't get it. And I will use what I went through to help others so that you cannot get any satisfaction out of this. Like that is what I want to do. I don't want it to be about me necessarily or anything. I want it to be about what I can add, how I can make this better. And also, in essence, essentially, that this is possible.
Yeah, you provided the links that are in the description. The very top one is Rain. That's the advocacy group that will probably be able to direct people in their region to the best help based on what they need for everybody watching. Check that link out. If you have a friend, if you yourself are experiencing something, use those links in the chat to directly show that person or yourself where to start. It's all about a start with the Chris Hansen investigation, which he has referred to it as. I feel like if he was actually working on it to help these girls, it would all be worth it. But hearing that he had the evidence just sitting, and it seems based off of the the DMs or messages between him and Vince that nobody really cared about it. There was no effort made to deal with that in a timely manner. And these girls thought that it was being dealt with. They thought they were in the hands of somebody who was coming to help them. That's the problem I have. That's why I see trouble here. That's why I see potential fumbling of the actual case itself, of getting any justice done. If you're not hot on the evidence you do have, if you're just neglecting it, and then it gets sent back to Sarah, not even opened out of the box, like that is indicative of somebody who doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's not even just that they don't care. It's also that they'd be willing to disrupt and fuck up a chain of custody of evidence as well. I mean, like this is just somebody who just blissfully doesn't care. It's that they so aggressively and antagonistically don't care that they would set it back that far. Like it's fucking gross. And the one thing I did want to mention since we brought up Rain is abuse happens to everybody, guys. It's one of the reasons why I was really happy that we all got together and talked about this and then decided to do it, is because these are links that can help anybody, but also like men and boys get abused too. I have my own history that I don't even fucking talk about, and Rain will talk to you too. They'll talk to anybody if you've been hurt. They'll help you out.
Yeah.
There's other links. There's thewomens'law.org. There is withoutmyconsent.org, nnedv.org, techsafety.org, and ibiblio.org/rcip/internal
Yeah, that's the international links for people that aren't in the United States for them to get help.
Yeah, they're all here to give you more information. And
the one that and to explain what some of these are, Without My Consent is a site that's about online harassment, and there are websites and organizations that are taking steps towards getting revenge porn laws more defined and enforced, which is something that that's something that I focus on.
I think especially in the digital media age where you have like a filming device in your pocket, and even if you're not wearing pants, it's not far away from any intimacy you have, and it's really hard to really give consent in the moment to being videotaped when it's happening. You know, you're already giving consent to a sexual act. Someone pulls a camera out, and it's really hard to say no while you're in the middle of everything. And then now somebody has this information over you, and they can just leak it publicly because they want to spite you, like that,
Or blackmail you with it.
blackmail you. A whole lot going on there. So yeah, I think that's very important to technology and law seem to be about 3 decades apart.
Yeah,
It's
really bad.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
It's really
disgusting.
bad.
The people.
That's kind of where I try to come in, is that um that's something that I can kind of bridge the gap between. Is that I understand a lot about digital forensics. I understand a good bit about um, as far as like protection and keeping oneself anonymous effectively. But basically, you know, having the most awareness one can when being online, with whether it's with different devices or on, I mean, I don't even have a smartphone. I hate them. But I familiarize myself with, all kinds of operating systems specifically so that I know how to teach people how to use them and how to be safe on them. Um, so that's where I kind of come in. And one of the things that I want to start, like, I guess my own personal mission is I want to be able to offer what I do for free. I want to, be a part of their services that are offered. And when I've talked to different centers across the country, they're in need of it. Like they would ask me, they're like, "Oh, could you come teach a class?" I'm like, I'm in, I'm halfway across the country.
Yeah.
So it's I want to compile enough so that different centers, as many as possible, can start to use this, as well as start attending the conferences around this so that I can help integrate these things.
You're a digital artist. You web and other design. You're very connected to technology, and I see you want to utilize your technological connections to build a platform that can help. And that's cool because I feel like most people don't have the skills or resources to reach people in this new age. You see a lot of people that actually, like, these organizations, they're trying, but to actually get out there and show people what the first steps are, because the first steps are always the hardest.
Mm.
And I think that it's interesting to have that opportunity to talk to people and tell people, like, I'm obviously not the type of person who is going to resonate well with victims and push. I don't have a story. I don't have the real drive for that. My drive is comedy, and sometimes, I get in a position where my comedy hurts people as well because I'm crass and I'm crazy. And that's why I wanted to take the last moments of everything that has gone on this weekend and try and hand the torch of any sort of viewership of people who are concerned about things to somebody who you fell into my lap this morning. When Jeff messaged me and introduced me to you, I just felt like it was important for me to kind of end this ridiculous saga of embarrassment by hopefully passing it off to somebody who can do something good with this. And that's why I figured I'd throw you on, Lola, and just give you whatever little view I have left off of all this, and just try and push it forward.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing that's important is, it's intention. And that's something that I look at quite a bit whenever it comes to the actions of people and what they're doing, is their intent. So and even if I see somebody and they seem to be, trying to fight the good fight, but then it seems that their ethics and their values are like not even on a different page, but like completely in another library. I that concerns me more
Right.
than someone slipping up. Like it so that's what I get concerned about. But you know, this isn't, and I want to make it clear that this isn't about, any sort of focus on me or anything. It's simply that I have so many of these things that are necessary just kind of all in one area. And I want
Right.
to let people know that I am here. If you want to talk to me, you can. I will do my best. Um, I certainly know where to direct you, how to help you find things. You know, I
You've been
am.
you've been uh, working with people behind the scenes this since you've got into this, and you've been directing people with information the entire time from what you've said, and you just haven't seen it really do much other than create views, right?
I think
Uh,
I think that's kind of like that's like the disassociation with it too. It's like the problem with the Hansen situation. I look. I think everybody wants to help. I think everybody always wants to help deep down. But I know probably in some cases better than any how YouTube and getting wrapped up in things can lead you to start really liking the smell of your own farts, and suddenly you lose track of the things that are actually important. People who do YouTube can get caught up in that sort of thing, and you start losing focus on what you were doing. For me, I had a stream with a fucking disgusting piece of shit named Amos E. And at the end of the night, I was like horrified at what I just heard, and then I saw the pile of tips I'd made, and I was like, I'm fucking gross. Whoa. And unfortunately, like a lot of people fall into that. You'll know when somebody's like ready to help. Somebody like Lola is willing to help, because they're not interested in being like, I'm going to make a spectacle. It's like, hey, look, hey, buddy, I have this information. I'm ready to fucking give it to you. Get a hold of me. Here's the information. No, we're not going to broadcast your trauma to the fucking internet. I'll, I'm here. I'm here. And like I've been trying to help Lola get in contact with people who've been abused by the sidelines, um, but it doesn't get the message out that like these are the avenues that you should take if you really want to have some satisfaction. So I'm glad that Billy, who's a fucking prince, helped us out with getting this going, so that people can find these links. They can find this information, find people who will be advocates, somebody who are going to understand, people like Lola who understands, and hopefully get some shit actually happening for people who were abused.
yeah. I mean, I'm not yet equipped with, you know, giving counseling or anything like that at this
Yeah,
point. It's all the technology stuff that I can really help.
yeah.
Um, I do hope to further that, um, and have been invited several times by other advocates at centers to, go through the training that takes place in DC every year. So we'll see if maybe that possibly happens. The other thing that I do kind of to help people out is I work within a scam baiting community, which
Yeah.
that's part of why I also dig around and find things very easily.
Yeah,
And
this is the fun part here. I love what you're doing here. I wanted to get to this. So, what's the name of the group or the site or the
oh well, we there's currently a forum that we run where people can post numbers to different scams or let people be aware of like what is a scam, like what websites are not, like they're just there to take your
like
money.
some call
And
center in India maybe just trying to take advantage of grandmothers that don't know that this isn't really
mhm,
Medicare getting their credit card information.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and they explicitly like take notes on which people might even have, issues with memory and don't remember paying them, and then they'll call them up every 2 weeks or so
God.
and do it over. Yeah, it's disgusting. Um, and something that we do is outreach. So there's a few people that are on the team doing different things. Most of them are in Europe or the UK. But some will get in and get their list, the list of victims that they have. And then we get their numbers and we reach out to them to see if, be like, hey, we found that you were a victim of a scam. We're gonna here's how you can possibly get your money back. So that's, I don't know of really any other place that does that. And it's a lot of it's getting kind of worse, but there's also people that are in India that help connect us to different things. And one of the guys on the team actually will travel to India and has shown up at the doorstep of one of these places.
Oh yeah, he like went to the center itself and was like confronted them.
Mm-hmm.
Now
And it shut down.
Earlier, when you were telling me about this, Lola, you said you used voices to like talk to these people, and you like ran a bit of like a back and forth to catch them in the act. Do you mind going back and forth with me with one of these voices in front of people so you could show them what you do? Is that too much? Am I putting you on the spot?
Just a little bit, but I can get used to it.
All right.
So
I'm gonna give you a call, and I'm gonna be the scammer. Okay.
all right.
Hello, Lola. This is Fridge Handsome, and I'm trying to get a hold of any possible leads on donations.
So do I need to go get a voucher or an iTunes gift card?
Do you know of any predators that I can target? I'm not good at playing a scammer. Jeff, do you think you could do better?
No, they don't talk about anything like that. They tell me that I have a virus.
Oh, a virus? So you're like you're the old lady, right? You're convincing them that you're an old dumb lady, and you keep them on the phone and you expose their scams.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of figure out what their script is, which most of them are pretty basic at this point. But there's a few different kind of characters that I'll utilize to just to kind of keep it.
Let me in.
Joe, go away. I'm busy.
Unlock the door, you piece of shit.
Joe, go away. I'm busy.
Stupid grifter off the fucking street. You look like
Joe, go away.
Let me in.
Sorry. Joe, I'm not unlocking the door. Go away. I'll call the police.
Let me in.
Go away. Go away, Joe. I'm busy.
Oh no, you live with this person. That's
Yeah.
Stupid bitch.
Yeah. I need help. I need help. I am being held against my will in my room.
Oh my god. Yeah.
What's up, Mr. Repsion in the chat? How you doing? I was hoping to see you with the court case on Friday. Things got out of hand, and I didn't get there in time. But yeah.
Some of the things that we do with this, I apply a lot of the technical skill that I have with this sort of thing. And one of the skill sets that I utilize is something known as social engineering, which is probably one of my favorite areas of IT, sort of, because it's essentially understanding how people are exploited via their own vulnerabilities. And I think that applies in a number of different situations.
Well, social engineering is really like when you hear about people hacking these days, it's not really based on actually hacking into the computer systems and hacking into like it kind of is, but it's mostly social engineering. Is getting people to give up. The exploit is the human element because two-factor is there. There's all these protections. The real exploit is getting on the phone with somebody and convincing them that they need to give you the information. That's what social engineering is today. It's very much the one of the premier hacking tools. You hack the human, not the computer.
Right. Yeah, and that's where I'm typically helpful with these sort of groups because I'm the one in the group of people that has social skills to begin with. So I'm the one that kind of steps forward with that and does it. But that's something that also I kind of want to draw back to and kind of help bring this full circle in the sense that it's taught me to be a person that um, if people give me information, I question it regardless. And it's not that I doubt the person, it's so that I understand it better and I know to look for things. So that's why oh, my ADD is bad.
Sorry.
But yeah, so whenever I'm told something, and if it doesn't, even if it seems okay, I just double check anyway. Like I double check with things, and this is something that I encourage people to do. Whenever I grew up, as soon as I turned 18, I was in a situation where I was in a very interesting predicament, but I was just like I bolted and was gone and was on my own. So if I wanted to figure out how to do anything or what my resources were, I had to ask around and find it. And this was 2003. So, access to things wasn't quite as good as it is now, of course, but that's something that I also want to help empower people with is being able to find resources a bit easier and steps on kind of refining those sorts of skills as well.
Yeah, I think if you could do some reverse social engineering where you could find out a way to make people feel comfortable in taking these steps, like ease them into making these steps and let them know that what they're doing is right and let them know that they are going to be safe and cared for along the way because it's so lonely, especially when you have certain people trying to take advantage of your pain. I'm not saying that in a Chris Hansen way. I'm saying that in all types of ways. When you're a victim, you have people pulling at you to maybe not go public, to maybe just let it slide. You have people around you that would your abuser is going to be defended by people that you thought were friends.
Picking the lock.
Joe, I'm busy. Go away.
Jeff, tell Billy to let me in.
Joe, go away. I might
I'm gonna break it down.
have to mute.
You've slandered my
Okay,
name
cool.
long
You
enough.
guys can
you
keep
fuck.
talking. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'll be right
cool.
back.
All right.
I want to tell you what I really think about the victim.
Fuck doing mute.
Jeff, can't hear you.
Oh shit, okay, so I was muted too. Okay, so before Joe comes bursting in like fucking Kool-Aid Man,
It's
what
muted.
haven't we touched on that we wanted to? Like we talked a little bit before we got started.
door.
Covered a good-
Yeah, we've covered a good amount of things. The links that I had for everything, which I want to offer in a bit more of a comprehensive list. But even throughout all of this, it's sucked that there's been a lot that has even gotten me to feel like I can't speak up or say anything.
Sure.
And it's been people thinking that I have ulterior motives. And it's really unfortunate that did affect me in such a way. I hate that it did. Because I know that there are people that I've, that have appreciated what I've done. And I still want to be able to offer that. And then people question like, oh, well, what's your credentials? What's your, whatever. And it's just kind of like, shit, are you asking that to the right person? So yeah, I get that occasionally.
I've had that a bit myself.
Yeah. But again, it's my intention with this. I don't seek to profit off of any of this. I just want to be able to keep doing it.
Sure.
So that's really it. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's figuring out a way to make it possible so that I can offer this and make it happen. And getting creative with how that works out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
And I really want to thank you, Billy, though, for lending your platform on this too. Like, I don't know, man. You're a mensch. Once we're done here, I think I'm probably just gonna record like a little blurb and point to this stream and put it up on my channel too. Because like, I just feel like it was a really good conversation.
I
So
wanted to
thank you.
have a really good conversation today that was chill, because I've been having so many unchill conversations. I wasn't going to do it online. I was just going to call somebody I knew I could talk to and relax with. And Jeff, I've always been able to sit back and relax and talk to you. And when you brought Lola to me, I knew that it would be a chill, relaxing conversation. Because I don't have a lot of people around me that are chill and relaxed. Most of them are absolute maniacs. So this was a nice break. And sorry for my roommate Joe. He's always on.
It's always on.
He's always
never
on.
He's always on.
Oh.
Yeah, but
Well, sweet.
Yeah, he
Lola-
sounds pleasant.
he's a pleasant boy. You might have to catch him in a phone scam. I don't know how we can do this.
Okay.
We need to take him down. It's at the Lola Bohemia on Twitter.
Yeah,
It's
that's right.
Jeff. I won't say your Twitter. What's your Instagram?
Real Jeff Holiday on Instagram. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
actually I'm actively telling people not to follow me on Twitter anymore because I'm not a good person on Twitter. So at Real Jeff Holiday on Instagram.
Jeff's Twitter is legitimately just posts about sales at Target. He at Target department store. He's like, "Hey, you got these socks on sale, $6.99 for a 4-pack." I'm like, this is the biggest content change I've ever seen.
It's
But-
pretty weird. It's pretty weird.
And again, everybody who's watching, I'll be back to my own crazy ways after this. I just wanted to take the very last breath of all this to speak on something that maybe will benefit people in a serious
This
way.
doesn't help anybody but yourself.
So, yeah,
What are you gonna do with the fucking donations?
Lola,
Tell everybody what you did to Seth's donation.
Lola, it was Lola, it
Why
was
didn't you tell everybody why you didn't give Seth his cut?
it was very pleasant talking with
He
you.
was gonna give
Thank
it to
you.
the victims.
Thank
And
you.
You said it would make you look bad.
Bye, everybody.
Tell the truth for once.
Everybody have a good
I
night.
got we got it. I got it. All right.
Well, thank you, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody. I thank you guys for watching. Again, if you want to show Lola love directly, go to her coffee page. Link is in the chat and in description. And I am going to go get in a slap fight. Bye bye.